All righty, what's going on, ladies and gents? Welcome back to the channel for another weekly update. Hope everybody is having a lovely start to their weekend. And with that being said, let's dive into the TA. Guys, we got some pretty darn aggressive selling going on last week. We did end up breaking down from these bear flag-like structures that we had across the board. We rallied into the 21 EMAs, the short-term moving averages over here on the daily time frame. Some stocks made it up to, where you were on the weekly time frame with these short-term moving averages. I'll just point out something like NVIDIA over there, Microsoft over here, Google, Amazon. You can see pretty clear rejections here, and I think it's pretty obvious the market wants to go lower. You're just seeing a lack of buyers right now, right? So you ended up having hot PC data came on. It was core PC data that came in hot, slightly hot over there on Friday, and that ended up being the nail in the coffin over here for let's get a big nasty sell after we started that sell on Wednesday. All right, so we did end up breaking down. It is pretty obvious we're coming down to new lows. Now, I'm just going to say everybody's bearish at this point. So that is something that you should keep in mind. Typically the market will not move too much in one direction if everybody's on one side. I'm just going to point out the actual short. It was on Friday. All right, you had a chance to short all the way up here. People are going to be shorting down here $20, 20 points lower on SPY and QQQ. I'm not saying you're not going to, make some money in the short term there on the downside, but we are probably going to come down into this area here, 540 to 550, and just find buyers down there. All right, we're going to actually start today's video off over here on VIX's weekly chart. Now, this is a chart you should keep in mind, and this doesn't mean we're going to end up going crazy over here and spiking like that, or spiking all the way up here and get another crazy event here. All right, a VIX event where we end up going to 65 bucks. Well, it's not a dollar amount over here on the VIX, but you get it. I'm not saying that's going to be the case, but I am definitely going to point out, all right, first of all, we gave you the warning sign ahead of time. All right, so none of what we saw, and none of that was random. We had the warning signs, pretty clear as day here over on the VIX. When this 4-hour RSI is oversold, guys, that is when, even if it stays down there for a week or so, you're probably going to end up getting, that snap back on the VIX at some point. That is when you start putting your caution goggles on. You come over here, the weekly time frame, and I'm just going to say, you have the weekly hammer candlestick. Just look, in the past here, we can go back. And most of the time, you are going to see VIX end up going higher. It doesn't mean it's going to have this crazy spike, but I'll definitely tell you, we're probably going to be going higher than where we just were, over the coming week. Now, if we end up, seeing VIX fall into the start of the week, it's probably going to get bought up into the end of the week, which means if you see that bounce in the indices, it's likely to be a dead cat bounce before it ends up going back down to new lows. All right, so it's a bounce in the indices that is likely to be sold if we get it. All right, now, if we don't get it and VIX just ends up spiking, fine. All right, fine. That is fine too. But, you got a lower wick over here. You end up spiking back up the following week. All right, I would say this looks pretty comparable over here. You end up spiking up over there. Got something like that. All right, end up going higher the following week. All right, we could just go back, guys. And if you see a candlestick with that lower wick, like we have going on there, you're probably going higher the next week. All right, probably going higher. Let's see if we can find another one. All right, we're not going to find exactly like what we got going on that week, but you can kind of just see what I'm getting at. Doesn't mean you're going to spike aggressively. It just means you're probably going to end up going higher on the VIX the following week. It doesn't always have to happen, but you can even see right here, you still made a new high. All right, so, this scenario really gives you the edge if we see the dead cat bounce on the indices to start off the week, because everybody is so bearish. And if we do end up seeing that, we'll just come back over here to SPY. If you see the dead cat bounce, it's probably not going to take out this high right here, 566.27. You're probably not going to even get up here. You're going to, sell somewhere in the middle of this range. All right, you would probably see something like that, or we take a few days, we revisit the 9 EMA right here. And then you fall back down, all right? So, specifically, if you see that bounce in the start of the week, you just know the odds are VIX is going to end up making a new high, and that means that that bounce on the indices is very likely to be sold. So you could take action off of that. So I just want to, get that out in the front there. But we clear as day can see VIX over here starting to rumble again, and it's probably going to go something like this. All right. I'm not saying you end up doing this constructive, the structure we had building out for 1 to 1.5 months over here. It was, never mind, it was like 3 weeks over here. You were climbing over there. I'm not saying it's going to be a slow decline like that. I don't think that's going to be the case this time. I think we're more likely to just spike over here. But sold right here off this 22 mark. But the important thing is you got that close back above your short-term moving averages over here on the daily time frame. And, as we could see, when you popped above it over here, that's when, you really started building on top of this. This is when the indices started, pretty much cliff diving. All right. So, this is where the risk on VIX above 20 is going to bring volatility into the market. If you want the VIX to, start crushing back down, take out this low, you're going to need to lose 1950. If you don't lose 1950, then it's just going to be that scenario we just talked about where you're likely, to see the VIX sell off and then just pop back up to new highs sometime later in the week. I don't know exactly how things are going to unfold, but that's, what I am preparing for. All right. So QQQ on the weekly time frame, guys, this is looking pretty butt ugly. It came up to the 200 DMA. It's the same look over there in SPY. You rejected it. You broke down from that bear flag, and now you got this bearish engulfing candlestick. I'm not saying we're going to get, another 4 red bars here, another 3 red bars, big red bars following the first one. But we are likely going to be seeing new lows with the looks we have across the board right now. I just don't, let's look at it this way. All right. If you end up bouncing right here, like, this ties into that scenario we just talked about, and it's going to create a little choppy market for a little bit. All right. Without direction, you're going to end up going like this. You're going to, maybe you're probably in the end going to just come down to new low. You don't want to bounce before taking out the lows because that doesn't bring new buyers into the equation. That brings the same exact buyers that were sitting here that were weak. All right. The ones that, got dunked on over here. Those are the same buyers that if you don't take out those lows, those are the people in the mix right here, which means it's just going to lead to another weak bounce. And then the people over here who are buying, who then didn't sell on this, they would sell on that bounce. So, that's your little psychology lesson over here on this chart. Real talk, if you bounce back without making that low, you have no new buyers into the equation. Maybe you got a few, but you're not, it's not going to be anything significant. And then it's likely to just be that, controlled bounce just like that, and then they're likely to sell on a small bounce, which is just in the end going to lead down to new lows. So don't be faked out by that bounce. Now, what's the other scenario to bring buyers into the equation? You either take out these lows and then you have new buyers into the equation, or you're going to put together something constructive, which is going to take quite some time. You're going to need to get above this high over here, and that's going to take a few weeks. So ideally we're going to come straight down to taking out these lows. We're going to get a little more direction to the downside here, and then we're going to see what new buyers step into the mix. But I'm just going to come over here, this Microsoft chart. I'm going to point out the weekly RSI is already at the same spot where you're bottoming out in the 2022 bear market. I am not saying it's going to be exactly like this over here, but this is kind of like along the lines of what I'm thinking here. I think you're going to go slightly lower this week. And then I'm just saying, everybody is definitely thinking on the same side here. We typically don't see that lead to, lasting moves. Over here, guys, we'll just come back over here to SPY. All right. A lot of people were still bullish up until this week. That's when everyone just flipped mega bearish and they're trying to short the lows and they're drawing their bear flag right here. And then you broke up and you're like, oh, no, it's not happening. But then you still had the bear flag and you broke down over there. All right. But it took some time to get everybody on one side. But, we're going to say this week and this week, everybody was still on that one side and you did end up going lower. So I'll just, say you can go lower with, everybody having the negative sentiment. It's just not likely to stick. I don't think we're going to get another few weeks here of selling here. I think we are likely to, make those marginally new lows over here. Maybe see 540 to 550 over here on QQ, probably, close to that 540 mark. And then you're going to have a lot of people on one side. And I think you're going to get that, the short squeeze kind of thing. And, I don't think it's going to be something like this. I think it is going to build out something bigger, but just acknowledge the market you are in right now. And that is one that clear as day wants to sell right now. The president wants the market to go lower. It's pretty obvious. He kind of told everyone this is what he was going to do. And this, he was trying to fix everything, and this is what that looks like. All right. I'm not saying it's picture perfect, but in reality, these are things people are hating the guy and stuff like that. But just realize, these are just things that were going to happen, and they were going to affect the market. We just decided to put our heads in the sand and be like, it's probably not going to affect the market too much. As we could see, it is. It is definitely the guy is trying to tank the market, and he's pretty open about it, right? They're trying to refinance the debt. Like straight up, he just keeps mentioning the housing prices. They're just too high. Like he wants all asset prices to come down, and it's pretty obvious. So just keep this one in mind. I'm not saying we're going through another 2022 bear market. But for the time being, until that narrative switches, then that's how it is. And you just have to trade accordingly to that. And you have to keep that in the back of your mind. I don't think we got something like 2020 going on. You had very aggressive bounces going on here. We don't have that going on. Or like we didn't have that on the way down there. All right. I think this is more closer to, the 2018 market we had over here. And then maybe in the following year, there's that. But as we could see, this was something that lasted for 2 months where the market really did get these lackluster bounces. You could see you stalled out at a previous high here. All right. And then you hit it with a triple top, and then you really broke down. All right. So don't expect anything crazy over here. Like, you're going to get these bounce opportunities. But I think for the time being, until the narrative switches, we are definitely trading in that market. And yeah, I mean, you should just trade accordingly to that, because if you don't, you're gonna, if you lost money on the way down over here, it's probably not gonna just change all of a sudden. All right, like you're gonna see what we were talking about. You're gonna see reasons for buyers to step into the equation. Right now, don't buy this thing right now. It has no reason to, and even if it does, all right, even if buyers do step in, it's what we just talked about. It's the same exact weak buyers that didn't support price over here. And then they're just going to get out at, a dead cat bounce. So it's not going to be anything crazy. It's going to be those lackluster bounces. All right. So let's just go over the indices. I just want to get that up front. All right. With how VIX is looking, with how the indices are looking, all the Mag 7 stocks are looking right now. Everything looks like it wants to come down to new lows. So we have really ugly monthly candlesticks at this point. I'm not saying, again, it's going to lead to a 2022 over there. But the narrative is completely different than what we've had for quite some time here, and the market is definitely just going with that narrative. Okay, and things are under the 200 daily moving average. You got rejected there, which means until we reclaim that, that's where sellers are sitting, which means any bounces until that is reclaimed are likely to be sold. Okay, I know it's not what people, maybe a lot of people don't want to hear, but at the end of the day, we are active market participants in this market. All right. Maybe not all of you guys are. Maybe some of you guys are just, investors that, you're just seeing what's going on. You just want to pile in all your cash and stuff like that. I'm just telling you, you're probably going to get more opportunities to buy lower. But yeah, as far as being an active market participant, week after week goes, you got to adapt to the market that you were given. And that is, what we just talked about. That's how you're going to do so. And I'll let you guys know when things are looking better, but right now, you got no reason to expect things are just looking better. You just don't. All right, so trade the market you're given. All right, weekly candle, pretty butt ugly. All right, support is going to be 554.87. Underneath there, 549.15, and then 539.44. On the upside, your resistance is going to be, this high over here, 566.27, 570.57, 576.41. And that is going to be key resistance. You have the 200 sitting right there. So that's SPY. We'll come over here to QQQ. We can just see on the hourly time frame. Oh, look at that. Didn't amount to absolutely anything. All right. We are sitting here in our demand zone over there. Lose 467.01. We're talking 459.17 and then 448.19. On the upside is your resistance. You have 472.41, 476.28, 480.25. All right, which were we rejected Friday morning there, and then 485.84. Same thing as SPY. you have the 200 sitting over there at 494.49. So until like these things are reclaimed and we start, you know, getting some constructive bullish price action, some structure building out here, you don't have structure for bottom here. You don't have, you know, you're going to find sellers on these bounces. It's just how it's going to go for the time being until proven otherwise. And it is what it is. I'm not saying you're not going to get, you know, a face ripper rally over here around the corner, because again, I think everybody is very clearly getting on one side of the equation over there. But, you know, even that rally, like it could just be sold. Like you see over here, you had a 4% rally, you know, that would be us honestly getting all the way up here. So, you know, who's to say we don't come down here, get a 4% rally, come back up here to 480, and then come back down? Like, who's to say that? All right. So that is the market you're in. Trade accordingly. That's buying QQQ. All right. Coming over here to IWM. You know, coming into that PC print, we kind of had everything looking, you know, the same over here. And it was either going to be a giant bear trap or it was going to do what it naturally wanted to do, which was break down off of the bear structure. Over here in IWM, you did find buyers off of 199.34 support. Underneath there, though, what are we talking? 196.70. And you come over here, the weekly RSI, and, you know, it's getting down there, guys. All right. So, you know, I don't think we're going to get another few weeks here. All right, like 3 to 4 weeks of selling. I don't think we're going to get that. I think we're going to get like 1 to 2 weeks of selling before you get a big bounce, and then we'll see what goes from there. But again, you know, we're still going to be under the 200 after that big bounce till proven otherwise. So do with that info what you will. Bearish engulfing candlestick over here, falling, rising wedge breakdown. Looking ugly, guys. Resistance is 201.99, 203.75, 206.02, and 208.84. Could not get above 208.84 over there. And then support 199.34, 196.70. And what's going to be the next one after that, guys? All the way down here at 191.34. DIA, how you looking? Rejection from that weekly 21 and weekly 9 over there. You can see on the daily time frame, we had that same bear flag rising wedge pattern over there. You broke down. All right, your support is going to be 414.19. Underneath there, what are we talking? New lows, 407.25. Resistance, 423.14. Let's just look at the MAGS ETF, see how that's going. Rejected the 200, just like SPY and QQ over there. Same look on the weekly time frame. Bearish engulfing candlestick with that nice upper wick going off the 200. This thing's coming down to new lows. Mag 7 stocks are looking pretty ugly right now. Pretty ugly. You got some bounce. You had some chances. And as we can see, we're starting to break down again. Tesla's actually holding more strength than the rest of the market over here. But it is still looking like it is probably going to be moving with the market lower if it goes. I'm not saying it takes out this low over here, but yeah, I mean, if the market wants to continue selling, this is just something that's very likely to move with the market, even though it's showing, you know, the strength over there. We'll see if it puts in a higher low compared to everything else and has that relative strength or holds on to that relative strength. But for the time being, it's probably going to be testing 251.84 unless you can, you know, get above the high over here at 276.10. If you get above 276.10, then you got a shot at 288.20 again. And if you do that, you're probably going to break it and run to 300. I'm not saying that's going to be the case, but yeah, above 276.10, you have 288.20 back on the table. Now, if 276.10 does not break, all right, then you're just going to be looking for that downside, all right? So the next support is going to be 251.84. Underneath there, you risk coming back down to the low, and then you're probably hitting 259 to 212.11 over here. That's what I'm watching over on Tesla. Come over here to Apple. Weekly candle, just like everything. Not the best looking thing over there, all right? But the daily chart is really what's starting to look like it's rolling over there, all right? Resistance 218.76, 220.47, and then 225.02. Get above here, test the 200. Probably not going to happen in the short term here. And on the downside, 215.22 is your next support. Underneath there, 209.97, 208.42, and then 199.62, guys. If this actually ends up, like I was hoping you didn't get this bounce. We got, you know, I talked about it, all right? We wanted to go lower. We wanted to, you know, really usher in this, you know, us crapping the bed over here. So you had max fear. So then you actually would have more, you know, more fuel in the tank for that face ripper rally. But instead, you know, we got this dead cat bounce here. We're falling down to new lows here. All right. And You know, that's how it's going to go. But, you know, we knew ahead of time that this bounce was likely to sell. I just thought it would be a little bit higher. I did not think you were going to get sellers right here on the 200. I thought it was going to be in this 580 to 590 area, but we did know, you know, this is very likely going to be sold down to new lows. And that's why I was saying, you know, these weeks over here, I was like, if you were a bear, you are waiting on the bounce to do so. All right. You're not sitting here trying to short lows. You're just not. Everything is oversold. You don't do that. When this thing's down here, friends don't let friends hit the short button when you get the daily RSI sitting at 30. It just makes no sense. Like, so what? It went slightly lower the following few days from over here to down here. $2. Oh, congrats. They ate you. It ate your butt. You know, and I'll be your friend, guys. All right. Friends don't let friends short when you have daily RSIs on everything sitting in oversold territory. Well, right now, guys, daily RSIs are not oversold yet. But if you guys see these come back into play, if you see 30 over here on the daily RSI on SPY, just know even during the bear market, these were not good times to short. All right. You could have went, you know, a little low over here. You could have. All right. But that was completely by chance over here. You just had a massive gap down and then faded. And then in the same day got bought back up. Like, this is not where you want to be putting on short positions, okay? So if you're not getting in on those dead cat bounces, then, you know, I just don't think it's not worth doing it, okay? But right now, we don't have that condition, so that can come back into play. And we can also put in that daily bullish divergence if you come down to a new low. And then we'll probably just be putting in that major bottom like we talked about previously, all right? I do think a big bounce is coming after this. But, you know, this low over here, this was expected after, you know, we started this whole debacle. I was looking for more of a dead cat bounce. You didn't. You didn't. You stalled right there at the 200 and came back down. All right. So we talked about Tesla. We talked about Apple. Let's talk Microsoft, right? I already pointed out earlier in the video, weekly RSI, getting down to where it's been at, all right, where it is right now. This is where all these arrows came to play. So, you know, you got down to where you are. It was right here. All right. You got down to where you are right here. You got down to where you are right here on this candle. You could just, you know, look at right there. You're right here on this candle. All right. So are we going to be seeing Microsoft snap back from here after, you know, this real ugly look? I don't think so. I think we're probably going to get another, you know, week lower here. But I think it's likely to produce a reversal candlestick. Just my opinion. Doesn't have to happen. But let's just, you know, look back what happened in the 2022 bear market. That's 4 times the weekly RSI got down to this exact spot, and you bounce back. You want to talk about the COVID 2020 crash? It came down to this spot, and then you hit the bottom that week. So this is why I was, you know, I spent a lot of time, you know, talking about where I think we are in the market right now, which is like, I think we're going a little bit lower here. I think it's pretty obvious, judged by those weekly charts. Those monthly charts are pretty ugly, but, you know, we're probably going to get a bounce that, you know, will bounce back into these monthly candles and then sell. Let's just look at the monthly candles. They look really ugly. All right. But, you know, you see all these wicks going on here. You know, you could get these aggressive bounces just because you close a monthly candle, you know, bearishly doesn't mean you get a bounce. Doesn't mean you just straight sell. Like, you know, over here. Close it over here. Okay, you didn't go much. You went 1% higher over there. And then over here, you went 1% higher over there. But we can get those bounces, okay? And this is definitely something to keep in the back of your mind. If you see those daily RSIs getting back down to oversold territory, it is not going to be the time to short. The risk is going to be on the upside. So just keep that in the back of your mind. Although I showed you guys this chart over here, VIX, although I said, hey, market's probably going lower. VIX is probably going to go, like, doesn't matter how much higher it goes. It's probably making a higher high next week. That is just how this typically plays out. Doesn't matter how high. And we could also see it go like this, where you make that higher high, and then the next week it completely fades down to a new low. We could see that with that face ripper rally. I'm just telling you, all right? Daily RSI sitting in oversold territory. Don't get super bearish there. We saw even what happened over here when people got super bearish there. You ended up producing, you know, yes, there's a weak, you know, little dead cat bounce rally, but it still ended up, you know, it was a terrible spot to short. So just keep these things in mind. All right. Like, you know, your entry over here, it was when you started to break it down over there, or you're going to be waiting for up here. You can short right here, but if you break these lows and daily RSI is sitting right here, you know, we'll say like 32, you probably only have another 1 to 2 trading sessions of downside. So you got to keep that in mind. Keep it in mind. All right. So that's Microsoft. Resistance over here on Microsoft, 381.10, 384.64, and 387.92. That's where you're paying attention to. On the downside, support, 376.91. And underneath there, you don't have anything until 366.50. There's literally like nothing. Between here and down here, you can see this little range. There's top of the range, bottom of the range. All right, coming down 366.50. It doesn't have to get down there, but that's the next support underneath 376.91. Amazon, very ugly look. Rejected the 200, rejected the 9 EMA over here on the weekly time frame, and you also have that sexy bearish engulfing candlestick that we have on most of these tickers we just looked at. Resistance 195.75, 201.20, 206.21. From this point on, until you break above here, don't expect much on the bounce over there. Ideally, you want to see this thing get back down into oversold territory. It's not like the indices. Indices, they don't spend a lot of time down there. All right, these individual tickers, they can dance around here for a little bit, and that is the case over here on Amazon. Just pay attention to the indices. See the daily RSI oversold. It's not a time to be shorting, but these individual tickers, they can just grind their way lower and they could stay down here for a little bit. Underneath 190.88, we have 185.23 and then 180.25. Let's just go over where those levels are right over here. All right, you see this, the bottom of the range you got going on here, break under there. Probably going to see a move at least down to 185.23, if not 180.25. Google over here, I would just say yes. It is getting into that spot here where, you start again your bounce over here in the 2022 bear market. But, this is what I was sharing with the Discord. I don't think this is a ticker that, anyone really should be focusing here on the long side. Let's just look at it this way. You get down here, the weekly RSI in your 2022 bear market, you got these bounces, but they're lackluster bounces that, just continuously got sold down to lows, or they were just this choppy range price action. Going back down to the low, going back up to the high of the range, low, high. All right. And then, you end up going lower in the end anyway. All right. But these arrows right here are the ones where, price ended up, where the RSI ended up getting down to this 35.50 spot. And these arrows represent where price was. All right. So over here, you end up just grinding lower the following 4 weeks. Over here, you got ever so slight of a bounce. All right. It took 4 weeks. This just isn't something that is ideal. It's just, it looks like a fake out. It looks like something that you shouldn't be focusing on. And then you come over here, okay, and yeah, you got a bounce, but then you came back down to the lows, and in the end, we're gonna focus on Goog, but just know we're gonna focus on Goog once we see like a weekly base build out or something like that. We're gonna see some structure build, and that's what we go off of. But right now, there's no bullish structure on the chart. It is looking mighty bearish. If you take out this low over here, we're back in this mode where we're going to wait for this base, guaranteed. All right, not trading Goog on the long side over here. Why? Because it's likely just to be a troll. Not going to get the aggressive bounces. All right, probably not. More likely gonna do what it did over there. All right, coming over here to Meta. All right, Meta is something that it was fading for a long time over here in the bear market. It just ended up fading. And I'm just going to say, with the look we have right now, it is pretty freaking ugly. All right. You're down 20%, 22% from the high over there. I'm just going to point out over here, you did end up falling 22%. No, it's not 20. Was it over here? 22%. It was over here. Okay. And then you ended up bouncing back. Now, I will just point out the monthly candle right here. Oh, this is what I was looking at, not the weekly chart. I was looking at the monthly chart where you had the spinning top candlestick followed by, a big bearish, wide-bodied red bar here on the monthly time frame. Same thing as over here. You fell 21% over there. You fell 22% right here. 22% over there, actually. And then you come down to the daily time frame, and let's just take a look. Now, I know that thing looks pretty ugly, but daily RSI oversold. Friends don't let friends, just like, you can open up, do whatever you want with your short position, right? But I will be your friend and remind you, it is probably not the best time to do so. Here, you wait for your reversion to the mean to short in this environment. That is where you're not going to get wrecked unless, you're day trading, and you're going to get plenty of opportunity in this market, all right? So that is that. But yeah, over here, you can see you literally came down to oversold territory, even though you had a butt ugly looking monthly candlestick. Come back over there, butt ugly. You still ended up getting bought up. You respected. We respected the daily RSI being oversold. All right. So again, you see this thing get down here. This is one of those stocks, not like Goog. This is one I'm going to say, you see it get down here. All right. Maybe prices closer to 550 at that point. All right. But if you see it, that is when you are likely to get a big boy bounce over here. Meta is very likely going to be participating in these. It's been a big mover over here, down or to the upside. It's always been a big mover. All right, so we're going to be seeing some big moves out of here. If you come down to 550, you're going to be underneath the 200. As we just saw from SPY QQ, it got rejected at the 200. So that's probably good. Like, just expect that. So you see the daily RSI get oversold. You probably got like, a bounce like this loading up, a $40 to $50 bounce. And if you're coming down here, maybe come back up here, maybe slightly, overthrow the 200 over here, and maybe you head back down to lows. I don't know exactly how it's going to go. But all I know, this is going to be, a focus over here for me. Once we do end up seeing this get oversold, once we see SPY and QQ get back down to new lows, and then, maybe those daily RSIs are sitting. If everything's aligning, everything is aligning, Meta is going to be the focus for the bounce. My personal opinion, this is one of the Mag 7s that I think will be doing good on these bounces and the sells. All right, a lot of volatility to be played over here on Meta. Now, NVIDIA, guys, they traded completely flat on, I mean, you had the initial sell over here, but if you didn't catch the initial sell over here on NVIDIA, this thing traded within a dollar range. Actually drove your boy a little crazy on Friday, and then I was like, okay, we're going to walk away from this. It's an L. But over here, guys, you can clearly see finding sellers off of 110.11. You got a little bear flag action going on here. I know the hourly RSI is sitting in oversold territory. But as we see, buyers don't want to step in just yet to it. If we see a gap up, maybe we come back and test this 113.22 to 115.14 range. But coming over here, the daily time frame, we know that's where supply is. That's where sellers are sitting. That's where the short-term moving average is going to be around as well if we get that little gap up there. All right. What's more likely is we're going to be making our way down to the lows. You can see on the weekly time frame, this thing is butt ugly. All right, you had a chance here. You had a really good chance here, and you completely faded it this week over here, starting on Wednesday. You faded your chance, and we knew after this day, hey, buyers are not stepping where they got to step in. You're probably going to break 113.22 and come down to 110.11. All right, and now we're going to come down to the hourly time frame. Let's just go over your support here. So 110.11 is being rejected. Underneath here, we have 108.64. You could just look over there, 108.64, 107.45, and then 104.77. All right, that's what you're watching over here on NVIDIA. On the upside, though, 113.22 to 115.14. Expect sellers in there. You lost there. You rejected it. You retested it, and you rejected it, just like you were retesting over here, and you found the buyers. My apologies. You found the buyers. Well, now you are rejecting it. So expect them sellers there. And this is honestly, this is the king. This is what your key to the market is really going to be. Wherever NVIDIA goes, market's likely to fall. All right. Now, with that concept I was talking about earlier, guys, you see everything getting oversold again. You're probably not going to keep selling for too many days after that. All right. So, I mentioned in the last video, even though, we've had this choppy price actions back and forth, first of all, the market had a lot more back and forth price action than NVIDIA. This looks like a nice move. But, either way, you got them near 10% moves after you had the daily RSI coming down to over like where you are right here, 37 over the last few years here, every time. All right. Like, this is a good amount of time here. This is 521 days. This is like a year and a half that you have had this, condition hold. And if you, screw this one over here, let's just go all the way back here. Now you have over 2 years of data, 820 days there where, yeah, daily RSI getting down to this area is where you should have started, like saying, hey, the risk is to the upside now. It is just how it is. All right. It's not like you fell off the cliff over here and you had a $20 move down like you did over here. All right. Instead, you hit this spot. You had that little bounce there. Okay. But you hit the spot. And from that close, you went $10 lower. Even if you bought there, you still caught that within 2 weeks there. You got that 7% move there. All right. But from that low, the next day, even you had a 5% bounce from that low. You gapped down the next day. That's what I was saying, almost that 10%. Like, this condition kind of still held. And like, if you just go back and back test, you get the 10% move over the following 2 weeks once you hit this area. So it's probably not going to change. And even if it is going to be like this scenario over here where you fall a little lower a few days following that, and you actually get it down into oversold territory, it's likely not to go too much lower. All right, you hit this spot literally on this day right here, and one day you went lower. It's 3%. Now I know we have a lot more volatility in NVIDIA now. It's the leader of the market, so it's not going to behave like that. But well, it's not going to behave like that. I don't know. It was kind of, it was a leader along the way over here. It was a leader along the way over here. It was a leader along the way over there. It's still a leader over here, downside or upside. That's what it is. All right. So if you take out this low over here at 104.77, you see this daily RSI sitting down here for a few days, you're probably very close to getting that big boy snap back, that big boy bounce. All right. And, at some point, you're probably going to get an actual bigger bounce here starting up. Probably not just what we got over here where you get the 17% rally. You got like a 25% plus rally over here. Not saying that's going to happen, but we definitely have volatility in the market right over here. And I can almost guarantee if you take out this low, you're going to have long-term investors stepping in the mix around that $100 level. Big psychological level over there. And, dead cat bounce or not, you are likely to see a quick bounce. Again, it is the king. And I know it's not been moving the best recently, but do not discount the moves that it's had for years now. Take out that 104.77 low. Probably not going much lower than that. Daily RSI is going to be sitting around the same spot where you're going to be expecting the volatility. Upward volatility. All right. So that's NVIDIA. Chips over here, guys. Butt ugly. Underneath 210.46. We got room down to 249. Butt ugly over here on chips. What the heck is that thing? Rejected the 9 EMA there. Oh my God, looking butt ugly. All right, expect new lows. If it bounces, either you're going to create that choppy scenario we talked about in the very beginning of the video, or you are going to, honestly, there's nothing else to do about it. If you get the bounce without taking out these lows, without bringing the new buyers into the mix, you open yourself up to this crap, even if it's going to be like, bullish in the end here without making new lows. You're going to have this constructive crap, that's the structure that has to build, and that could take 1 to 2 months. All right. Like that's like the 2022 low over here. We'll just call over here to QQQ. This. All right. How long was this? You were in the same range here from here up to here for 3 months, 4 months. All right. Like, that's the scenario you really don't want to happen here. You much rather, make the new lows and then you have the bounce to go off of, okay? Or something like, bases can take time to build out. Like this over here was 2 months, all right? You want to have, the impulsive decisions where you get some impulsive buying in there, all right? But you need the impulsive selling there too. There's that. All right. So that's SMH. We're going to come over here. INTC, pretty ugly look there on the weekly chart. You failed that spot we were watching, 23.34. You got the 200 sitting right around there. You had short-term moving averages. You are likely coming down here to the zone, which is going to be 21.50 to $22. Likely coming down 22 this week. AVGO daily RSI is already in oversold territory. I want to say downside is limited over here on this one. I think this thing, led the charge this time around on the downside, and I think it front ran the move. You had a way more aggressive move over here. You based out here for 2 weeks here between 185 and 195, and then you broke down from that and you got a pretty impulsive move already. Daily RSI is almost down into oversold territory. For a while we haven't seen it stay down there. It doesn't stay down there, and that's for years and years and years and years. That's 10 years now. All right, even 2020 or the 2018 over there, you got 2019, and then 2020 the crash over here. Okay, well, not over here. Nope, not over there. Over here. No. Finally got down to oversold territory, and you ended up getting a 10% bounce. All right, so I'm just gonna say the same concept we talked about earlier, guys. You're underneath the 200. You were holding it. Yeah, I thought you were gonna launch off this thing and use this base. I thought you were gonna bounce off this base over here and then launch past 196 here up to 211. You did not end up doing that. You broke down from that. Now you're underneath the 200. So, if you go a little bit lower here, something like that. Expect sellers sitting up here at the 200 next time around, which will be around 185.16. Your support underneath 167.23, you have 157.54. Resistance is 177.61 and 185.16. SMCI, guys, has not broken down here, but you could see it doesn't really want to hold the golden pocket. If the market sees further weakness, this thing can honestly sell back down to the lows over here. Underneath 34.51, we have 30.76 and then 28 bucks. Resistance is going to be 37.85. TSM, all right. It is already making that big move down to new lows, leading the way over here. I mean, chips lead the market, all right. Chips, they could lead it to the upside or lead it to the downside right now. They're leading it to the downside over here. Reject the 21, or not the 20, well, yeah, the 21, but also that 200 up there. You didn't test it, got really close. We can see across the board, this is where sellers are. So until these things could be reclaimed, you know, you're going to have this market environment and you just got to adapt to it. You got to be, you know, just thinking like that. All right, support is going to be 163.10 and then 156.01. If you see the daily RSI get oversold, probably not too far away from your bounce. All right, this thing, you know, it could get in these cycles there. All right, where you just absolutely die. But that was your bear market bottom over there, and that was peak fear in the market. I don't know what fundamentally was happening with the company, but I don't think the company is too fundamentally bad right now. I'm just saying. There's that. I don't think we're, you know, in this whole bubble scenario. People think. That's just my personal opinion. I don't think we are in that bubble. I just don't. I think these are companies with actual earnings behind them, and yeah, I mean, I don't think we're in no .com style bubble crash over here. I think we're definitely entering, you know, some rocky area here in the market, and you know, over there in 2020, I'm pretty sure what caused the whole thing was you know, just a credit crisis. We don't have that going on right now, but you know, that's what's going to produce an actual crash, not the fear, the tariff fear that Trump just keeps reminding everyone about. That's not what's going to cause a crash. When everything behind the scenes shits the bed, all right, and then algorithms start doing crazy shit, pardon my French, that's when things shit the bed. It's going to be so unexpected. It's not this slow decline we've had. I'm telling you guys, this is not the crash. This is like just bare structure built out here, and we're breaking down from it. Over here, this was tariff-induced. This was Trump-induced traumatic experiences over here for bulls. Like, straight up. All right. This was the guy every other day. The market would bounce, and then he would talk about something new, like bad. And then the other countries would, you know, come on and say, you know, we're going to fight against you doing this. That's what the market was panicking. But this isn't like an overnight thing. He told us he would be doing it and stuff like that. The COVID 2020 crash, guys, that was overnight. This thing was going crazy. We're talking just 4 to 5% gap downs. All right. Like, it was this pure panic over here. Like, you got everybody talking about the market's freaking crash. It's a 2008 crash. It's happening again. That's not what we got going on right now. So don't let anybody trick you into thinking that's what's happening right now, because I'll tell you right now, as someone who was, you know, in the market in COVID 2020, and, you know, I wasn't a big trader back then. I was just someone I was just buying as much VU as possible. I was just averaging in every single week, buying, you know, I think I was trying to buy 1 to 2 shares a week over there on VU. It was trading at 203. It was around 300. And then I remember it dying on me. And I just looked at my phone. I was like, oh my God, it's coming down to 250 or whatever. Let me just look and see if my memory is correct over here. But I remember I had just thrown like a good amount of money into the market. I think I had around $5,000 in the market over here. Just kind of, you know, just throwing my extra money over there. And then I remember it just died. And I remember I was so happy because I had an average over here. Like, I was buying this whole way and I was really happy. I was like, this is the first time I was like, I'm making positive steps over here towards, you know, a wealthy future. And then I just remember this and I was like, oh my God, in days it came all to, like, I waited that long for that return. All right, my return there, and then boom, that happened. It was either 5 or 10K. And I just remember it went down quickly, and I was like, oh my God, I gotta buy as much as possible. There was no more trying to buy 1 to 2 shares at a time every week. It was, you know, straight up, let me just pile everything in. And then it kept dying. All right, and then it got back down to here, and I was like, you know, these companies, as long as they're not gonna die, you know, they're going to end up snapping back. And that's the point when, you know, you put your investor hat on and you're like, now it's a sit and wait game. All right. But, you know, I'm just going to say we're not doing that right now. Okay. It's not this scenario. You don't have to be piling all your cash into the market trying to buy the dip. I don't think we're getting something like that. I'm just letting you know. All right. But yeah, my memory was correct because Boo ended up freaking coming down here to 200. I remember this. I was like, oh my God, this is craziness. We're not getting anything like that right now, guys. Just understand nothing like that is happening. It's just not. And, you know, maybe there are people who have 20 to 40 years of experience in the market and they're going to point to, no, that's what's happening behind the scenes. But I'm just pointing out to the charts right now. And I'm telling you, I just told you, all right, at some point that is going to happen behind the scenes. And then you get that. But until that happens, like, this is not that. On the charts, that happens just impulsivity. That is just straight up a limit down day where, you know, overnight you're just starting this gap down. And then the next day you make the same move. And then the next, like, you know, it just kept happening. We're definitely not getting that. All right. So I don't want to talk about no crashes. Didn't mean to spend too much time of our video on that, but there's that. Okay. All right. We're going to finish up over here. We're going to come over here to Bitcoin, and I'm just going to point out you had, you know, the motherload of all resistances right here. You didn't want to be longing into things over there. You did end up breaking down. If Bitcoin holds down here for the weekend, if it opens lower or here, MSTR and Coin, they're going to gap down and take a hit on Monday. So let's just review those charts. But as far as Bitcoin goes, guys, next support is going to be 80K. Underneath there, 76.6K, and then 73.8K. Down here at your golden pocket from this whole move up here. All right, this whole big move up, 100% move up, 50K move up. That is where you're coming down to. All right, it doesn't have to come down to, but that's where the confluence is. Okay, MSTR, guys, you did end up breaking down under that 303.80 level. It's looking pretty ugly over there, broken underneath the short-term moving averages. I think we have a slide going on here that can continue for a few days if Bitcoin is going to behave into next week for the bears. All right. So underneath 285.01, we're talking 267.89, and this is the level I think we're probably going to get back down to here in the short term if Bitcoin holds where it is. All right. So coming over here to coin, this one is clearly showing more weakness over there than MSTR. Daily RSI is probably going to come back down to oversold territory. Underneath 176.38, you have 161.87. And then 146.12 underneath there. I don't think we're coming down to 146.12, but 161.87. I would say that's very possible here if Bitcoin is to really break down. All right. The market is not favoring risky assets right now. And this is the stock version of Bitcoin. This is going to follow Bitcoin. People do not have confidence in crypto right now. This thing's not going to do good. All right. That's just that. All right. Some trade ideas I'm watching for next week. The first one I'm going to point out over here. So this is just a little short setup over there. Underneath 23.26, it can get a little dead cat bounce action. Okay. This thing, if we get a dead cat bounce to start the week off,